Good evening. Hi, welcome everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bali. Welcome to the Amsterdam Polish Film Festival. My name is Jante Mosselman and I will moderate this evening for you. It's the second day of the festival and today we will talk with film director Agnieszka Holland, whom this third edition of the festival is dedicated to. We will talk with her and you will also have the opportunity to ask questions. And after that, we will speak with migration expert Hein de Haas and actress Jolie Mbundu, who played a part in The Green Border. But first, let me please introduce to you Agnieszka Holland. She is one of Europe's most important filmmakers. You will all know her work. She's won numerous awards, a Golden Globe, recently the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Los Angeles critics. Yesterday, her movie A Lonely Woman and Fever were screened, and hopefully you were all there to see The Green Border. Please give her a really warm applause.
Yeah, it works. Okay.
Yes, it does. Maybe because this festival not only showed The Green Border, but of course also films from your previous work. And therefore I also wanted to ask you maybe to take us back all the way to the 70s when you started film school. And I wanted to ask you, do you remember why was it cinema for you back then?
That is quite a long journey, because it was like 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I was 15 when I decided that I want to make films in communist Poland. It was. Some of directors from the communist country afterwards, when the Iron Curtain ended, explained that it was very difficult to find for the creative people or for the people who've been entrepreneur or for the people who wanted to be independent, express themselves. And so to find the field when you can be really free somehow. Mm-hmm. So if somebody had that kind of the character, it was impossible, and in the same time didn't like the ideology and the authoritarian regime, it was impossible to go to the politics. If you wanted to create or produce the things, the private industry didn't exist and private business. So somehow artistic field have been or cinema especially for those overactive people, it was the possibility to find it. But I was like kind of creative child from the very beginning, and I wanted to be a painter. And when I was about 15, I realized that painting and drawing, even if it was my passion, and that is more hobby than entire way to express myself. And I asked myself the question who I really am and what I really need in order to be myself. And I made 3 points, which unfortunately I lost that paper, but like 20 years ago, I still have it someplace when I wrote it down. First, it was like a visual expression. Second, it was storytelling, tell the stories. I was reading the stories, listening to the stories, and telling the stories all the time. And third one, it was to tell people what they have to do. It means the power. And when I put it together, I realized that it's exactly, the film director. So then I focused, and for the next 2-3 years before I made my baccalaureate, was able to try to go to a film school. I watched the movies. It was my main occupation, and I then went to the school. I had the problems with, passing to the next class. Sometimes, and I became somebody so connected to the cinema that I realized that it's really the best way to express and to show the word, to show my word, and to describe the word, objective word, and in the same time to use in the most creative way your imagination. And it helped that it was great period, because I went by end of 60s to the film school, and that was the best period, I think, for world cinema, the most creative and innovative, and you had fantastic filmmakers, geniuses like, I don't know, Bergman, Fellini, Antonioni,
And
Kurosawa, so.
What made it so good, that period?
I think that it was the moment in the history of the cinema where when many people realized and accepted that the cinema is a form of art, that it's not only like popular entertainment, but it is also something which can be the really personal expression of the filmmaker, of an artist. And in the same time, the audience have been hungry to meet something new, the new languages, the new stories, and more ambitious. I think that it was also that those people who've been great directors in that time, they had the experience of the Second World War in some way. Not everybody have been in the occupied country or fighting or something. But the gravity of that experience, which was one of the most terrible and cruel experience of the history, and certainly of the modernity, it shaped the curiosity of the viewers in the way that you didn't need to all the time, to fight for the audience and to please the audience. They've been just open. I think that great creative energy, which was characteristic for the cinema of 60s, 70s, it came not only from the filmmakers, but it came also from the audience, from the people who've been excited to watch the things which needed from them to make the efforts to open up, to have the patience, and to be excited by the and thrilled by the sometimes very complicated structures or stylistic devices.
Would you say then also that if you've had really, really dark times, there's an extra longing for art?
Well, it depends, I think that it helps somehow, of course. It helps to understand that we cannot escape the freedom all the time, and that we have to fight for that, and also that the freedom is something when we can find in the field of art, that the art is that field, and the cinema in that time was considered as some kind of the cinema as art, and not only in the art houses, in Europe especially. You had like great box offices for the most ambitious and more complex films. So it was the space of freedom, and it was cherished by the filmmakers and by the audience. And dark time, I think that some difficult experience can make people more stronger, can give them some kind of the conscience that we need to make the effort in order to achieve something which is valuable. And also that life is complicated, and life is complicated, and people are very complex, and you don't have just black and white, and that complexity of the vision of the world, which came also from the literature, from the post-war philosophy, like existentialism, and so it made people more creative as an audience, frankly. I think that I don't know when we will have such a wonderful audience again, but that it was reciprocal. It was a real exchange.
That's also something that you see very beautifully in your films, I think, that there's always different positions morally. but you always also, and that really touches me, showed people doing good. And I was wondering, so for instance, in the Green Border, there's the people who help the refugees, but also in Mr. Jones, of course. And I wonder, do you tell these stories because you want to give people an example? Or is it just the way life is?
It's not that simple. It means I don't believe in the pedagogical effect of this, like straight pedagogical effect that I say, you see, here is a good person, how nice she or he is, how beautiful it is what he's doing. Of course, that aspect may be a bit also, but for me, it's more the mystery. It means it's quite easy for us to understand evil, to understand the crime, to understand the temptation of hate and hate. It's easy. Somehow, the most of the popular cinema and especially TV series are dealing with the crime and perpetrators and serial killers and so on and so on. And somehow, rarely we are asking the question, how it's possible that the humanity is producing such an amount of negative, but we are pretty surprised when we are, and suspicious when we are meeting the goods. It means, and that is that mystery. Why? What happened that some people? It's not the huge amount of the population. Mostly, it's not more than 5%. That they are able to sacrifice their life sometimes, and certainly their comfort, and to stand up even against their own families or circles or bubbles, and do the things which are not popular because it's some kind of the challenge to everybody. If somebody are doing difficult moral actions, mostly he's challenging or she's challenging the people around, and the people don't like it. You have the periods when suddenly, it became some kind of the a massive movement, that movement of, of the generosity, like it happened in Poland recently, 3 years ago, when the full-scale invasion of Putin to Ukraine started, and Polish society, Polish people, they spontaneously moved toward the borders and organized in the way which was, for me, unprecedented. Thousands and thousands of people are helping some total strangers and was spending and taking them to their homes and so. And it didn't end after a few days. It took months.
Were you surprised by it?
Yeah, it means, especially that a few months before, earlier started the crisis on the Belarusian border, which I'm showing in Green Border. And here the reaction of the majority was totally different. Also reaction of the politicians, of course. And somehow, it's much easier to do the good if you have the support and acceptance of the authorities, political authorities, religious authorities, and so. But even the activity of the people helping Ukrainians have been much bigger than the official desire of the government. The government after followed the movement more than initiated the movement. And it was, that contrast was striking, but I wasn't surprised. I think that after living quite a long time and in different circumstances and meeting many people with different experiences and making the films about the crimes against humanity as Holocaust or Holodomor, frankly, nothing surprises me. What people are capable to do for good and for the bad. And I think that a part of the psychopaths, like decent, regular human being, has as much capacity and potential of the good acts and the bad acts. But it is much easier to be bad than to be good. And it's much easier to support the bad actions by, for example, the governments or other authorities. And the bad seeds are growing much faster. Mm-hmm. They don't need so much of the fertilization, and good needs the help, needs the care.
I want to go a bit more into that, but first I wanted to ask you, because you brought it up now as well, you've made these films about the Holocaust and about the Holodomor. And I was wondering, why for you is it important to show these histories?
Because I felt that it didn't end. I felt that it just was somehow put to sleep. Mm-hmm. And that humanity, especially people in the Europe or United States, in the rich countries, which went through that experience directly or through their armies, have been somehow vaccinated. And that vaccine was quite active in Europe. We can see it quite obviously, and the creation of European Union was one of the effect of that vaccination, and believe that it's possible to create the community where the nationalism and selfishness of countries and states is not the main reason, to do the politics. But with time, that immunity evaporated, and I think that I was feeling it for last probably 20 years, mm-hmm. maybe longer, and even before, that what happened once certainly can happen again, maybe with different. Maybe, the perpetrators will change to the victims and the victims to the perpetrators. It doesn't matter, but what matters is that we are capable again, if we want to escape the confusion, fear, and freedom, we are able again of the most terrible acts. And I believe that right now we are in that situation. We are. It's going faster than I expected. I'm explaining that danger for I don't know, maybe 10 years, and certainly very actively for like 8 years and for last 3-4 years. And now it accelerated, and I think that it will be very difficult to stop it just by goodwill or by political will.
Mm-hmm. No, because I think that's also really apparent in your life, and very grim in a way, that when you started out as a filmmaker, you were arrested at the Prague Spring. Your films were banned in the martial law. And now with the film The Green Border, the reactions of politicians to your work, again, are horrible as well.
Yeah, it was horrible, and it was like organized by the highest authorities of Polish government, and the hate campaign against me, our film, and some other people connected to the film. And somehow it was unprecedented, because even during the communist time, I never was the object, and no on the people I know of such a widespread campaign. But at the same time, it was still a democratic country to some extent, and we've been able to show the films in the theater, and the theater's managers, some of them have been threatened or asked to show some, propaganda clip before. And they refused, and maybe it was 2 or 3 cinema in the entire country who accepted that kind of the censorship. The people have been going to the theaters, and somehow my distributor would never have enough of money to pay the promotional campaign, which was made by Polish president or minister of justice. Yeah. We had great box office because of that. So, it's much more, it was very unpleasant, a bit dangerous, because I started to receive the threats of that and so, but in the same time, I didn't feel that they it's not like go to prison or to be banned completely, or to be censored for good. So, it's like a gray zone. Even in Putin's Russia, which is obviously dictatorship and the regime, it's still possible somehow, to tell the things or have the passport, for example. You are the person who is against the regime, and regime knows about it, but not always arrest you. Sometimes they arrest you and can put you, I don't know, 15 years, or even kill you, like Alexei Navalny. But in the same time, somebody like that can get the passport and go, to England or Germany or whatever. It's much more messy, the world now. It's also more difficult, make the choices. Somehow when you are in the real oppression, real occupation, the most courageous people know where to go. And here a lot of people are confused. But I'm not complaining, of course. That they didn't.
That confusion might be helpful. Yes.
In I don't know, concentration camp. I'm happy to be free.
Yeah, of course. Maybe one more question before we go to the green border, because that's something that I wonder about. Because in your film, The Green Border, of course, it tells a story about something that they don't want the people to know. You've also made the comparison to the Vietnam War. When the stories come out, something can really change. But it's also, I think, there's forms of art that are less opening up certain stories that they want to be hidden. But they're still, in a way, I think the nationalists, the authoritarians, they have a real fear, I think, of art, because they always go after the artists. They always want to keep them silent and lock them up, even if they're not even super political. What do you think they fear in art?
They feel there's a fear of freedom, exactly. That kind of freedom, which is very difficult to, to kill. It means you can be silenced really if you are afraid. If you are not afraid, you cannot be silenced, even if they kill you, somehow. I don't know. I don't want to be too pathetic, but yeah, it is something they cannot understand, that courage or perseverance or impact even sometimes of the art. But unfortunately, you don't have so much of art which is so courageous in our days, not only politically, but also in terms of the courage of new expression, new languages or new. I think that we are in pretty bad place as a filmmakers for sure.
Why?
I don't know. I think we are too lazy. We are, the comfort was too big. We don't want to leave our comfort zone. It's too easy to make movies. And you don't need even to have the box. In Europe, you don't need to have the box office in order to make the next film. Which is great that you have the state support and public support and so, but in the same time, it makes people very dependent on on that support. And by the end of the day, conformist. And that kind of the clientelism that, that the government gives me money to make my film, so I cannot, to be too brave because I can make them angry. Not only because of the political subject or statement, but also because I do something they don't like. It's plenty of things which governments think that they need to control. So I think that we are too dependent, and I think that we are too. It's impossible to make really good film if you don't feel that kind of the total freedom inside of it. It's impossible, but enough of freedom to take the risk.
This thing you say about the comfort zone, I think it's very important in your work, because you switched also the sort of films that you make in your career. Sometimes you decided to go and do something really different than you've previously done. And I wonder, how do you know you're getting too comfortable?
Oh, probably I feel it. Probably it makes me, I think that the main thing which is like driving me is a curiosity. Um, and I survived many difficult moments in my life because I was curious what will be next, what will come next, how it is to be, for example, in the prison, how I will be in that circumstances which are out of the comfort. And same with the movies. To try to tell a different story or tell it a different way, or to do something which is really risky and I don't know for sure how to do it, how to make it. And it can be a disaster, it can be the failure. So I think that curiosity, as long as it will stay with me, will push me to make something maybe different and for maybe better and for sure different.
And then The Green Border. As I said, we in the audience just watched it. It's an incredible movie. And it's a very touching movie. It's very emotional. And I read that you said in an interview about it that you sort of almost as a surgeon try to keep also a distance from it when you're making it. And I was wondering, how do you do that?
I learned it also when I was doing the Holocaust movies. Of course, afterwards, you feel it. It means it's not totally innocent to make the films which are so emotionally challenging and so terrible somehow. When are showing the films the things which are so cruel and the violence, not only physical violence but also psychological violence. And when we wrote Green Border, and it was based on everything was based on the documents, statements, images, and so real stories. So it's not a lot of imagination. They're practically nulla. Our work, it was to the storytelling and the structure, and the composition, and what you need to keep the tension that the viewer watching the film like that, black and white 2.5 hour-long film about the migration, will not leave the theater and will be sitting, will be involved, will become the part of that experience. So that it was our goal in the first place. And that is why I wasn't like shouting on. I tried to give the voice to everybody somehow and to keep the balance. Me and my collaborators, it was very much collective work. We wrote the script. Three of us wrote the script, and then it was also two young women directors who've been in co-shooting. It means we divided the crew to two parallel units, not on all days, but on several days.
And then I read that you work also in this film with real people, not only with actors.
Yeah, but main characters are professional actors, but they happen to have that experience also. Because especially the actors who are playing Syrian family are the real refugees. They happen to be the father and the grandfather happened very famous actors in the native Syria before becoming the political refugees. And Dalia, who plays mother, Amina, she is not, I think she was born already in France or anyway out of Palestine, but she's from Palestine. She's Palestinian refugee living after in Lebanon. So they knew it, and Maja Ostaszewska, who plays Julia, the Polish character, she's very active. She's a famous Polish actress, very popular somehow, and great Polish actress also in the theater. But she went to the border, and she was doing the work, humanitarian work with the activists. And after she became some kind of the spokeswoman for the cause, to trying to to reach mainstream media to tell that story and to tell about what's going on. And till now we are doing it, she and me, because the situation unfortunately is not changing for the good. And the new government, which won the elections, also maybe slightly because of the popularity of our film, it's using the same language and the same acts, and even is going further somehow in legalization of the, and in the first place, all politicians in Europe now realized that they want to do the same as populists are doing. It means, and you in Holland know it as well, to take over the same agenda as the populist fascists are doing. And in the same, they are afraid that if they will show the humanitarian face, they cannot ever win the elections.
Yeah.
I think, because I did some movies about 30s and Holocaust, I think there is a big mistake, because in 30s also the liberal Democrats were thinking that if they will take over fascist agenda, they can beat Hitler, and in reality, you never stealing the agenda from the fascists. You are never winning with them, because the people you make them legal, somehow credibilize them, and give them the red carpet to the mainstream. And it's why I'm so sad about it, and I don't see the politicians who have another idea how to deal with that, knowing, of course, that the migration is probably, politically and socially speaking, now the biggest challenge for the rich countries, because Europe is not ready and will be not ready to welcome all people who want to come here. Is impossible. But the question is, if except of the propaganda, hate, and the lies and violence, if we have another idea how to change it, how to stop it, or how to how to find the balance, and I don't see that idea. So I think that the next step is, with the help of the democratic politicians, the people, the Europeans will accept that we need to kill the people who try to pass the borders. And mentally, we are in that place already. I'm reading now the commentaries in the liberal newspapers in Poland, and half of the commentaries, even more, maybe 80%, is we have to kill them, we have to shoot them, we have to sink the boats, we have to do that and that. That is already on the public place. That kind of the conscience.
It's truly horrible. One of the things you said, maybe as a last question, one of the things you said about this as well is that what's happening at the border is not as much a political battle, but it's a moral battle.
Yes, and I think that Putin and Lukashenko, who are the master of ceremony, puppet masters on our border in Poland or Lithuania and Finland also, they know very well that they are winning in the moment when we totally deny our morality and what is the base of the post-war European civilization. It means human rights and égalité, fraternité, liberté. So they are winning. They don't need thanks for that. We are just giving them that not only satisfaction but also situation. I'm thinking, of course, and reading a lot about geopolitical consequences of many things, and also about what it means for the African situation. How much Putin, for example, is winning in Africa because of how we are dealing with the African problem and the spies and non-understanding and racism we are showing to them more and more. But what I'm interested in really is the human lives and choices and the individual human beings, and is what is our film about. It is not about Mr. Putin and his and his, manipulation. It is about the simple people who just have unique life. They will not have other, and they try to make the best out of that. And they are fighting for the security, freedom, some wealth, something meaningful and dignity for many things.
Thank you for now. I'm going to ask and see if there's anyone in the audience who wants to ask you a question as well. Yes, okay. I'm coming towards you with the microphone. Oops.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Najpierw chciałam po polsku. Pani Agnieszko, dziękuję bardzo za Pani obecność i za bycie tutaj z nami. To jest naprawdę niesamowite przeżycie. And now to be more inclusive, I'll ask in English. I was wondering, so one of the many motives I've noticed in your movie was this dichotomy, this contrast, right? There's so many black and white, left and right, however you want to put it. And I was wondering if perhaps you have some piece of advice on how to navigate this very difficult architecture, how to create some form of a dialogue. How do we find a way forward? Thank you.
But you mean dialogue between whom and whom?
Yeah, I would say the dichotomous people who are definitely on the different sides of the spectrum, so to say.
Yeah, I think it was possible. And, when the situation exactly after the Second World War showed how possible it is to find some kind of the agreement, compromises and common understanding. But now I think it is extremely difficult, and not only because the politicians are stupid, they are, but because, it is the effect of the complexity of the challenges of the modernity we don't know how to deal with. So the situation is so complicated. Meaning, now climate catastrophe, migration, and internet revolution, globalization, that the people feel that they cannot find the way to win it. So they are looking for somebody who will give them the simple solution. And they are mostly populist, and the simplest tool how to win the attention and confidence confidence of the people is to create the hate and fear. And the social media are spreading is so well, and now we have artificial intelligence to help. That it's just, even if you are going on the social media, if you are active on the social media, you see very quickly that even in your bubble, when you have only, the friends who have very similar, life experience and opinions and taste, and so very quickly comes to some kind of the divisions, which are so violent and so, and it's impossible to repair that what happens between the people who really have very different point of view and life vision. It is, we are just not wanting to see the complexity of the people and of the things. We are not curious about the differences. We want everybody to be the same. And if it's not the same as me, we become incredibly judgmental, and we are able to deny him the right to have his own life and his own choice. So I don't see the atmosphere. I don't see the space for collaboration and compromise. And you see it also in the institution like United Nations or even European Union, which quite long was the example exactly of the politic where it's possible and necessary to find the agreement and to take in consideration different, very often opposite opposite desires or needs. I don't see that space. So it's why I think that, sorry, that it maybe doesn't sounds very optimistic, but I think that we are already mentally in the war, in the global war. And if it will come and become the military experience, I don't know. But if you watch Middle East, Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran, and on another hand, Russia and Ukraine, and China, and so, and possibility that the next president of United States will be the guy we already know. That is that shows that it's very, very little chance that the people will unite in something positive.
Thank you. Is there someone else who wants to ask a question? Yes.
Do you think maybe that in the base of all of it lies that we just have a basic lack of knowledge of each other?
Yes.
About Africa, about Middle East, about neighbors, people. Can we sort of spread the news?
Well, yeah, but it's not that we cannot, because we have access to all possible informations. We don't want to know. We are not curious. It's why I say that what keeps me going, it is curiosity. I'm losing the curiosity. You have to find that comfort zone exactly where you feel that you are right, and you have to protect that comfort zone. And what we are doing now, we are protecting our comfort zone, and we are ready to sacrifice the values we believed 30 years ago, 50, 60 after the Second War, after 89. And so we are capable to sacrifice those values to keep our comfort. But unfortunately, I believe that by the end of the day, we'll lose our comfort and we'll lose our values in the same. We'll remain with the empty hands. But yes, it will be much easier to look for the solution if we'll be knowing the others people agendas, experiences, desires, everything, needs. But we are not curious. We rather accept some kind of the simplified vision, or we accept that the people, like for example the migrants on Polish-Belarusian borders, are presented by the previous government as terrorists, zoophiles, pedophiles, and Lukashenko weapons, and by the new government as criminals and the mob.
Maybe there's room for one more question, if anyone has one. Yes? Kom even zo langs je.
I had a short question about the ending of your movie, because I think it was very touching. The comparison between the Ukrainian-Polish border and the Polish-Belarusian border. Why do you think, or maybe what do you think about how we perceive, people see migrants and differentiate between them? So there is the better migrant that's allowed into Polish soil versus the other ones. I was just wondering if you had anything to add to that.
Well, the racism is a very simple answer, but it's not everything, I think. I think that it's also that in Poland especially, we felt that what happened to them can happen to us, and we have common enemy, and we have a big diaspora of Ukrainians in Poland before the war, and we speak similar language, we have similar same religion, and so on and so on. So yeah, it is much easier to show the compassion and active compassion for the people who are like we. And if somebody has dark skin, he's not like we. He has dark skin and comes from the country. We don't understand the politics, and we don't understand why some Syrian are fleeing their country and some Syrian are not fleeing their country, and what's going on in Sudan, and what's the difference between Sudan and Somalia. And somehow it's so messy, you know, that we don't want to be involved, and we see those people as some kind of the parasites who want to destroy our comfort and to eat our social security.
Thank you very much for this conversation. And maybe as a final question, because also to end maybe on a sending you off, you are working now on a film on Franz Kafka.
Right.
Why Kafka?
Well, I loved Kafka. It means Kafka is somebody loved Kafka is maybe stupid to say, but yeah, somehow I love that man. I read him when I was in the high school first time, after I made the adaptation for Polish television of the trial. I went to Prague partly to find, you know, the traces of Kafka, and what he wrote was very important to me and very, you know, very, like, I think, inspiring. But also I was like very moved by that human being, that, you know, fragile, very strong, mysterious, you know, human being, and I wanted somehow to find the way to touch him, to, of course, not to explain the mystery, because most of the mysteries are impossible to explain, especially. But and also, you know, I was very curious to try to look for the language I can speak about Kafka through the film, and actually it's totally different from any films I made before, and so it is real experiment to me, and now, because we already cut it together and showed to some people, I think that it works. So I'm kind of really excited about the moment when I will be showing it to the wider audience, which will come sometimes in the next year. We don't know when exactly yet.
I'm super excited as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we will continue the conversation a bit more on the topic of the green border, and hopefully see you again when the movie of Kafka's out. Thank you very much.
Very much. I'm sorry I'm not in person. Next time. Thank you.